Good evening. I'm Chris Cahart. I am or was the chairman of the Act 46 Study Committee. I thank you all for coming out tonight to the first meeting of the Addison Northwest School District Board of Directors meeting. Thank you for coming out. I see a lot of people here from the Act 46 Study Committee that helped get us here. I see a lot of people who have taken the charge to become a board member or sustain their board membership. I see a lot of community members who have supported and fought for this day for over a decade. I thank you all for your persistence, tenacity, supporting our schools, our communities, and ultimately our children. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. We've got a special guest. I'd like to introduce the Vermont Secretary of Education, Rebecca Holcomb.
Thank you. So one of the privileges of my job is to be able to come to communities like this and celebrate beginnings. And I would call this a bit of a wedding. And it's always funny when you go to these communities because it's coming together, but coming together in a new way. And there's that time where you try to figure out where the furniture is going to go and who's going to do what. But it's also really exciting. So it's such a privilege to be here. So I think officially I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I don't see a clock. How unusual for a school. Oh, there it is. At 6:05. And I'd like to start by calling the meeting to order and then swearing in the new board. So as I mention your name, if you could stand up. What we'll do is we'll have you stand up one by one as your names are read, and then I'll swear you in as a group, and that will keep us from swearing for the next 45 minutes, if that's all right. So Finn Yarbrough. Finn here? No. Okay. And these people, if they're not here, they'll get sworn in at another time. George Lawrence. George Gardner. Laurie Childress, who is not here. Tom Borchert. Sorry. Sue Rakowski, Lori Gutowski, Christina Maculin, did that, Chris Kuzina, Mark Koenig, and John Straub, who is not here.
You're missing me. Diana Raphael.
Not on my list. Diana Raphael, I'm sorry, you're not on my list. But that just means you get special recognition, and you're a teacher as well, I understand. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Glad you're still here. Thank you. Great. So what I'll do is I will say the oath. I will go piece by piece, and if you could just repeat after me, that would be great. And we'll do both the swear you in and also both that you'll be the oath of allegiance and ethics for the state. I do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont.
That I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont.
And that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. So help you God. Next, I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of school board for the Addison Northwest Supervisory District of Vermont.
Can you repeat that? No.
That I will faithfully execute the office of school board for the Addison Northwest Supervisory District of Vermont, and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability according to law. So help me God. Thank you. Congratulations. Can everyone give a round of applause for the new board? So congratulations, and I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to give a few words. I'll try to keep it brief in the interest of temperature. I wanted to just thank you for all the work that you've done and all the work you've done for the state of Vermont. Education is really a core value for the state. In Vermont, we care a lot about education, and we also care a lot about getting what we can for our dollar, because we know that we have to get what we want for our children. Mostly we care about quality education for our kids, and we care about strong communities that support our schools and children. And it's been so interesting to go around and to see the presentations by the various communities, because what comes out is that core commitment to communities and the realization that every strong school has a strong community around it. So I really want to honor that and all the work that I've seen in your community. Communities like yours invest both their dollars and your time, a tremendous amount of time, because you know that the welfare of our Vermont children and the vibrancy of our Vermont communities depends on it. We have to educate our children well, and we have to do it equitably. And I know that was a big piece of your local conversation. That is our public trust. And so what you are doing is very, very important. Our teachers work very hard to support our children, but our school boards and our communities demonstrate their commitment to our children through the participation in our schools around the state. We know we're in a period of great change in Vermont. We know that statewide we're struggling with declining enrollments. We're struggling to support equity for our children in the way that we feel they deserve. And we know that we need to think about how to do what we do differently so that we can maintain what we care about for our communities. We know that at the same time, we're dealing with larger economic and technological changes that are changing what we have to teach for our children and what we expect of our schools. Our schools are literally building that airplane as they try to fly it at the same time. We're in a period of innovation and transformation, and that makes your stewardship even more important. It's not just about governance unification. It's about how we come together as communities and have focused educational conversations about how we take care of our kids into the next century. We know that we need our children to be educated to be entrepreneurial and creative in whatever trade or profession they enter, because they have to be able to do the work that machines can't do, because the work that can be done by machines will be done by machines. And it's worth thinking about that, because that's part of why our schools are challenged right now. It's not that they're not great. Our schools are very strong, they're wonderful, but what we're asking our schools to do is very different from what was asked 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And that's why your job is so exciting, because you're entering at a time of tremendous transformation, and you will be in the driver's seat with your communities as you try to think about how to move your school into the next phase of it. There's no one way to do this. What works here is different from what will work in other communities, but what's powerful is the good work, the hard thinking that has gone into bringing you to this point. In the face of all the challenges that I know you've grappled with as a community, you didn't ask whether you cared about school quality, because you know you did. You asked, rather, what's the best way to create and preserve school quality into the future? And I don't think there's a more important conversation for us right now. You realized, as a set of communities, that you might have more power by trying to work together, side by side, on behalf of your children. And you would have a greater chance of continuing the strong public support for your schools, which is what characterizes where you are today. You've chosen to work together with your neighbors to create better opportunities for your children than any of you could have done by yourselves, and for that I really commend you. I want to also take a moment to just acknowledge the deep respect and appreciation we have for all the hard work and all the tremendous community building that took place. Mr. Kuzna, you mentioned how much community conversation and how much engagement had to happen to bring you here. And I think that's right. And where you are now is just a beginning. You're going to continue to have that conversation with your parents, with volunteers, with business representatives, school district leaders, educators, and students as you move forward into the future. I want to also just acknowledge a couple people. You know, Chris Cahart, you're not up here. Where are you now? In the back. I know how hard you work, and I just want to honor the tremendous work that went into the study committee from your position at the helm. I also want to thank Jeff Glassberg, who I don't see here today. I'm sorry to say that, because I do know he's been very involved and he's worked incredibly hard. And I think sometimes the work of a school board member is invisible, because when things go well, people don't notice what you did to make it work well. So I want to at least call him out and call out his great effort on behalf of all these communities. And I know that there will be times when you do tremendous things for your communities in both ways that are recognized and unrecognized, through thick and thin. There will be some challenges. But I do want to acknowledge that these schools aren't strong if you aren't there doing that incredibly important work. And I want to acknowledge how lucky and fortunate this region is to have citizens with your level of dedication to your schools. So thank you all for all you do every day for our Vermont children and for the children of your communities. There is nothing more important. Thank you. And with that, we'll turn to the business of the meeting. And they always have a real person who knows Robert rules come in and help me out at some point. But what I'd like to do now is open the floor to elect a temporary presiding officer who will take over the meeting from this point forward. And are there any nominations? Nominations are now in order for one to serve as a temporary presiding officer. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Tom Spencer.
Okay, Tom Spencer is nominated. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, no other nominations coming forward. We're going to take a vote. Hearing none, all in favor of electing Tom Spencer as your temporary presiding officer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. No opposition, so you have now elected Tom Spencer as your temporary presiding officer. So if you could come up, congratulations. And I'm glad to deliver the meeting into your hands. Thank you. Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna help with the swearing.
Good evening. I am Tom Spencer, and I currently live in Ferrisburg. Before that, I lived in Addison, and as I jokingly tell people, I spent my first 60 years living in Addison. I intend to spend the next 60 years living in Ferrisburg. Just a little thing for the story I'd like to tell the board. An experience. Growing up in Addison, I started school in a one-room schoolhouse called the Olin Smith School. That year, the school board in Addison had voted to close the one-room schoolhouses and build a new central school. So I started second grade in the new central school. But the summer before that school opened, I have a vivid memory of a man that knocked on the door of our house. My father was chairman of the school board. And this man was very angry. And as a small boy, you're impressed with that. This man was angry because my father and other volunteers had dismantled a swing set at one of the one-room schoolhouses near where this man lived, and had moved it to the new central school. And this man told my father, those swing sets were paid for by us, the parents of that school, and those don't belong to you in your new school. So just as a thought that in combining these schools and school districts, there are going to be sensitivities out there that have to be thought about. So to move on here, we need to appoint or elect a clerk. Do I have any nominations for clerk?
I nominate Rose Wenzel.
Do I have a second?
I'd like to nominate Charles
I'll second Rose.
Okay, I have any other nominations? If not, all those in favor of Rose Wenzel, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no? Rose, you can now take the minutes. Yeah. What's that? I guess that both, Rose, if you come up here, according to our schedule, both you and I need to be sworn in.
Maybe I'll decline this nomination.
It's too late.
Too late.
Never too late.
There's no way out.
Oh, yes, there is, not showing up. Learn that in school systems.
All right. Do you solemnly swear?
Oh, boy, Carol, are you sure about this now?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the office of temporary presiding officer and clerk, temporary clerk, to the best of your abilities and judgment according to law?
I do.
Go. Congratulations.
Now I don't need to swear. Bye-bye, Tom, that was a great relationship.
Our next article will be to adopt the Robert's Rules of Order that'll govern the parliamentary procedures of this and subsequent meetings of the Unified District. It is, and we should understand, there will be an annual meeting every year just before town meeting. This is our actual first meeting to organize the government. And so therefore, for the meeting that's going to happen next February, we need to have this in place. So do I have a motion to adopt the rules of order?
So move.
Do it. Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So now this seems rather redundant, but now that we have this running, we need to elect a moderator for next February. So do we have any nominations for moderator for next February, for the next meeting?
Tom Spencer.
Rose, would you mind coming up and taking over for one moment? You have a motion, and you need a second and then a vote to pick the moderator.
Okay, so,
I'll second.
and I don't know your name, so I have to write that down. Okay,
Christina.
Christina, and now I do what?
Ask for a
It's
vote.
right here. Just-
Okay, so does anybody in favor? Hearing one. Oh, are there other nominations? Sorry, skip the next one. Figured that one. So hearing one nomination for Tom Spencer. All in favor for electing Tom as your moderator for 1 year, signify by saying A.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Guess you're stuck with it, Tom.
I'm stuck.
You're
Yep.
stuck with it,
So,
so I don't remember.
Now I think I'm supposed to swear you in again.
well, we can do that. I've been known to slide.
Let's just make sure you don't. So now we're swearing you in as the moderator, not the temporary moderator. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the office of moderator to the best of your abilities and judgment according to law?
I do.
Congratulations.
I never feel like that I'm not moving far.
All right, now we need to elect a clerk. Nominations are now in order to nominate a clerk. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Rose Wenzel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? If not, all those in favor of nominating Rose Wenzel as our clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Now you need to swear Rose in.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in again. Now we're swearing you in as a permanent clerk. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the office of clerk to the best of your abilities and judgment according to law?
Yes, do.
Good.
Now we need to elect a treasurer for the ensuing year. Nominations are now in order for one to serve as treasurer for 1 year. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Lou McLaren.
I'll second that.
Are all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? So now we need to swear in our treasurer.
So I wasn't sworn in with my other treasure position, so does that mean I'm really not the treasurer?
That's what I was wondering.
I was like,
All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the office of treasurer to the best of your abilities and judgment according to law?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now we've
Yes.
elected our officers. Now we need to determine compensation. For the moderator and clerk have never been typically compensated. The treasurer has. So I guess what we need is a motion to either to make it the moderator not paid, the clerk not paid, or a sum of the treasurer. So do we have a number or out there that? Go ahead, Joanne.
May I speak?
You may speak.
So typically, the moderator and the clerk have both been volunteer jobs. We may want to rethink that at our next annual meeting, specifically related to the clerk, because there'll be responsibility around counting the commingled votes. And that is a little bit more than the clerk has been used to doing. So we can delay it and decide that at another time. But typically, the treasurer does get paid. And internally or in around the state, anywhere between $700 and $1,400. In this next year, the treasurer won't have a lot of bills or a lot to do financially, but will as we get into 2017. So I would recommend that we start with a $700 stipend for until the next annual meeting, where the board can reconsider.
Therefore, I need a motion for the payment for the moderator be not paid. I need a motion for the clerk to be not paid, and any motion from the floor for the treasurer.
Three different motions? Or
I need, yeah, we could have one motion to cover all three.
Move that the moderator be a volunteer non-paid position, the clerk be a volunteer non-paid position, and the treasurer receive a $700 stipend for the year.
Second? Any discussion? Yes.
Just a clarification, is the $700 stipend between now and the end of the year, or would it be?
Till next February, when there would be
Okay,
another, the annual meeting.
okay.
And I'm sure as a board, you probably can make adjustments.
I just wanted to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, before the next, we would vote on a new.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Does this, we're not including board members, we're
Not in this vote.
officers. Do we get a stipend?
We
I
need
know
to
the
discuss
individual-
that later.
We discuss that later? Sorry.
Not on this agenda.
Not on this agenda. Never mind. I'll shut. I'm good.
So I have a question.
Fine.
I have a question. So can you repeat your motion, since I'm supposed to be taking the minutes? I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
You said no pay to the.
The moderator will be a
Volunteer.
volunteer, no stipend position, the clerk will be a volunteer, no stipend position, and the treasurer will receive a $700 stipend for the year, for the remainder of this board year.
We have the, everyone understands the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So now we need to, the Article 5 is to establish a date for the annual meeting. The Addison Northwest School District will hold its annual meeting on the fourth Monday to transact business not involving Australian ballot, and upon completion of such business and meeting is to be adjourned and reconvene in the respective polling places on town meeting day to transact any business involving voting by Australian ballot. Do I have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So what date would that actually be?
Well, it would change every year, of course.
I mean, for the next coming, so
It would
what
be-
was the,
It would be the fourth Monday. Got your Google Calendar on you?
Which, in February, right?
And
February
fourth
27th.
Monday of February.
Fourth Monday of February.
There are always 4 Mondays in February?
There are always 4 Mondays in February.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed? No?
Lori Gutowski? me, I think. Christina Macklin.
It's the 27th this year, if that matters.
Okay, I just was curious.
Article 6, to establish provisions for the payment of any expense incurred by the Addison Northwest School District. I guess this is authorizing the board to pay bills. Am I correct? Do I have a motion to accept? A second?
Second?
Any discussion? Joanne?
May I speak?
Sure.
I just wanted to let the board know that we will be receiving a transition grant from the Agency of Education to help offset the incurred costs of the new Addison Northwest School District Board in this next year. It was 150, but we used 30 of it for our study committee, so it would be, we used 20 of it for the study committee, so it would be 130.
Any other questions?
That's it. Thank you.
Do we currently have any expenses that we need to be paying for? Or are we?
Yes,
zero?
actually, there will be, Mark. We'll need to get some business office advice about how to, moving our accounting systems over. We'll be talking to a lawyer. The board may consider some public engagement exercises. So those are just some of the thoughts that I had.
But there's no bills sitting on your desk right now that are waiting to be paid.
There are no bills that are waiting to be paid. Thank you.
And Joanne, has the district received the money already, or?
We have not received the money.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. There's a continuation here with the policies and procedures consistent with those of Addison Northwest Supervisory Union and to follow state statute that govern fiscal responsibilities as identified in Title 16 Vermont State Statutes 563 8. All those in favor?
Do we need
I guess we need a motion. Yeah. Yeah,
So
we need a
moved.
motion.
So moved.
Yeah.
That code?
What is it?
We've got our second.
Second, sure.
That helps Rose just to keep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Article 7, to authorize the Addison Northwest School District to borrow money pending receipt of payments from the State Education Fund by the issuance of its notes or orders payable not later than 1 year from the date provided, however, that the newly formed Unified Union District is authorized by Vermont statutes to borrow sufficient funds to meet pending obligations. Note, in the ensuing year, a transition grant will be available to help cover costs associated with forming a new unified union. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
Sure.
Any discussion?
We're trying to make it easy on you, Rose. here.
Yes, George.
If this is all predicated upon the Vermont statutes allowing us to do this, that statement wouldn't be in there unless there was a potential problem.
Does anyone have an answer for George?
This is straight out of the statutes. When you form a new school district, you are obligated to vote on these articles.
It's a pretty routine, it actually gives you the privileges that you currently have as board members, so it's giving you that. It's nothing, it's basically establishing you with all the rights of borrowing and spending that an existing board has.
Okay, it just seemed like there might be some hiccup from the state, the way that's worded.
May I speak?
Yes, Joy.
It's not a hiccup, George. It's typical to what we've just come off of our last individual board meetings. to request a line of credit. We'll have to do that with, even though you're not going to need to do that in this next year. It, as the Secretary mentioned, it provides the board with the authority to do so as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Article 8. This concludes the warning articles. Is there any other school business that may legally come before this meeting in connection with the foregoing articles? Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up?
So I guess now I should ask about,
Do you want to do it now, or do you want to wait until our next actual meeting?
doesn't it need
It needs
to be done now?
At a public
Right.
meeting. which
And I know
would
when
be
we
February.
had the other, it was never really said whether we're going to do it now or later. That's why I'm not trying to push it off. I just didn't know what the decision was.
I don't think there has been one.
Sure, you can raise it.
Well, I think we should raise the issue of whether or not the board members get a stipend to pay for associated costs of being on the board.
Are you making a motion?
Do I need to make a motion?
I don't know, you want
We
to?
have to have some
May I
first.
speak first,
Yeah.
if you don't mind? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, may I speak?
Yes, Joanne.
This is not a meeting of the board. This is a meeting to swear the board in, to give you the authority to do the board work.
Okay.
The reason that I have been sending around times for us to meet is, yes, to do a retreat, but at the end of that day, we were going to hold a formal board meeting where you would establish a chair, a vice chair, adopt Robert's rules, set any stipend or funds of money that you wanted to pay yourselves, all of the typical decisions that a board makes at every annual meeting.
Right.
So I would recommend that, we haven't warned that discussion.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate for a meeting like this, so I would recommend that we not do so.
But I don't believe the board at a regular school board meeting can vote for stipends for the board members. It needs to happen at one of these public meetings, like this one, or one of the annual meetings. That was my understanding.
It's not.
Is that
I
not?
may interject, but I think any spending issue like that has to be warned.
That's probably true as well, but I'm just saying, I don't think it can happen. I think it needs to happen at a
So-
meeting of the public.
Is there any other issues coming up? Anyone else have a question? If not, I would like to thank Secretary Holcomb for helping me out and for joining us this evening. And I'd like to thank all of you for showing up for our first very historic meeting. And if there's no other discussion or needs, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
So moved.